Now, I have a question for you three. Do you know a little bit about Ramayana? More than a little bit. Very little bit. Same, very little. Okay. Well, that's our topic. How to enter into the topic so it's not just meaningful and relatable. Just like, this is maybe a good place to begin. Just like Krishna appears, according to the Vedic text, once in every day of Brahma. You with me on that one? 100%, right? Okay. And where does Krishna appear from? He appears from the spiritual sky, according to the Vedic literatures. There's far, far beyond material creation. There's a vast spiritual sky. In that vast spiritual sky, there are Vaikuntha planets, spiritual Vaikuntha planets, and amongst them is one shaped like a lotus called Goloka, and that's where Krishna resides. And in the material world, once every day of Brahma, Krishna appears. And similarly, in that vastness of the spiritual sky, there's the topmost of the Vaikuntha planets. Just below the Goloka planet is the planet of Ramachandra. And like Krishna appears once in a day of Brahma, Ramachandra appears once in a day of Brahma. And because the days of Brahma are cyclical, the appearances are also cyclical. And the text that describes, even before he appeared, details and details and details and details and details about Ramachandra's appearance and activities, was written by a great sage named Valmiki. And many nice things to say about Valmiki, but obviously a very special soul, and he underwent purification. We're going to be looking at the screen here, so don't get too uncomfortable. Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. Hare Krishna. You're good. He's got a rubber neck. It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. Valmiki, many things happened, but among those many things that happened, Valmiki was given a benediction that he would be able to see the pastimes of Ramachandra before they happened, and he was instructed to write his pastimes down. He did, and that text is Ramayana. And Ramayana is many things in one thing. One of the things it is, it's a history. It's a category of Vedic text called itihasa, which means it's a history. And within that history, there's lessons of life. And there's through those lessons, there's explanations of Vedic texts. So let's step back a little bit. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says the purpose of the Vedas is to know him. And one can know him through the medium of devotion to him, loving service to him. That's how he becomes known, or he reveals himself through that medium of devotional service, which is what Valmiki had done. So Ramachandra was revealed to him through this medium of service. Of course, his service was a literary kind of service. Not everyone has that kind of service. But details and details and details of Ramachandra's life and his associates. And one of the things that we learn, just like with Krishna's pastimes, when Krishna descends, with Krishna comes his associates. There's a very nice passage in Gopal Champu. Gopal Champu is a very nice book written by Jiva Goswami. In Gopal Champu, Krishna speaks to Radharani in Goloka Vrindavan and says, "It's time for my appearance in the material world. I wouldn't want to go to the material world without you. Will you come with me?" She smiled and said, "Of course, but being in any place without these three things wouldn't be complete." So Govardhan Hill, so Krishna arranged for Govardhan Hill, the forest of Vrindavan, and the river Jamuna. So Krishna smiled and said, "Very well." And all the associates of Krishna, not just Radharani and Govardhan Hill and the river Jamuna, but all the associates of Krishna descended with him. And when he ended his pastimes, they returned to Goloka Vrindavan. Or, it also can be understood, they simply became unmanifest, and the pastimes of Krishna and his associates are eternally going on. Similarly, in Ramachandra's appearance, all of his associates, and there's many, 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 they came with him. They didn't just like descend in a parachute or something, but they made their appearance in various ways. And this evening's discussion, all of that was background, is one of the persons who is in Ramachandra's amongst his eternal associates is Dvivida. Dvivida and Minda in Ayodhya in the spiritual world, they're eternal associates of Lord Ramachandra. And Dvivida appeared amongst the associates of Ramachandra in this world. And he appeared as a devotee of Sugriva. Sugriva was a king, and Dvivida and his brother Minda were ministers to the king, Sugriva. And this painting is a painting of the Vanaras, the monkey warriors, crossing this bridge from India, southern tip of India, to Lanka to deal with Ravana, because Ravana had kidnapped Sita. Sita? Sita. Okay, great. Okay. Now it's mentioned here on the screen that they're sons of the Ashwini Kumaras. And how that happened is from Ramayana. There was this wicked, super powerful, demoniac personality named Ravana, and he had powers to travel all over the universe and was conquering all over the universe. He was a powerful demoniac personality. So this painting is showing the demigods praying to Lord Vishnu to descend and deal with Ravana. He's too much. And the reply from Vishnu came to Lord Brahma, and Brahma then relayed the message, Lord Vishnu will come and he'll deal with Ravana. And to assist him in his pastimes, and also to allow them to participate in his earthly or worldly pastimes, they, the demigods, should beget offspring in such a way that the offspring can assist him, Lord Vishnu, in his pastimes. And there were some conditions, and eventually, amongst the heavenly denizens, there's the Ashwini Kumaras. You see them with shaped like having as if horse heads. Their position is they're sons of Vivaswan, and amongst the demigods, they're royal physicians. Amongst the demigods, the royal physicians, the Ashwini Kumaras. And they, the Ashwini Kumaras, they became the fathers of these two brothers, Dvivida and Minda, who later became associates of Sugriva and assistants of Lord Ramachandra in the battle against Ravana. However, some of you know from Mahabharata that there were 5 Pandavas, and 2 of the 5 Pandavas were fathered by the Ashwini Kumaras. I want to stay with our 3 gentlemen over here on my left. So the Pandavas, the eldest of the Pandavas was Yudhishthira. And then the next of the Pandavas was Arjuna and Bhima. So they were sons of demigods. Yamaraj, Indra, and Vayu. Right? And then the Ashwini Kumaras were the fathers of 2 of the other Pandavas, Nakul and Sahadev. So they had their role in both, the Ashwini Kumaras, had their role both in Ram's Leela and Krishna's Leela. Now, a little bit after Sita was kidnapped, you're with me, right? Sita was kidnapped. Bad guy Ravana kidnapped Sita, and for many reasons. One of the main ones, he was super lusty, and she was the goddess of fortune, super attractive, etc., etc. And long story, he kidnapped her. And then there was a search party to find Sita. And there were Vanaras, or monkey warriors, that went in 4 directions. And when they got to the southern tip of India, they came to know that Sita was not at the southern tip of India, but she's in an island of Lanka that's in the sea. And the distance between the southern tip of India and Lanka was 800 miles. You with me? 800 miles, 100 yojanas, or 800 miles. And so the Vanaras were getting together to decide who could go all the way from the southern tip of India, because these aren't just monkeys, they have powers like the demigods. So they were consulting who can jump all the way to Lanka. So their head, their chief, their captain, their commander, the person in charge was Angada. So Angada said, amongst all the Vanaras, who can jump that distance? So they were just considering how far they could jump. And one of them, Gaja, said, I can jump 80 miles. And another said, he can jump 160 miles. And so forth and so on. When it came to these two brothers, Minda said he can jump 480 miles. Not enough. Got to get up to 800. And Dvivida, in this discussion, we hear about him, in this case, 560 miles. So this is an English translation of Valmiki Ramayana. And what happened was the Vanara who could jump that distance was Hanuman. You all know Hanuman, of course. Hanuman had received I guess you could say a curse or warning from Brahmanas because he was super powerful. The Vanaras said, you're going to forget your powers until somebody who knows your powers reminds you. And he was reminded by Jambavan. And when he started remembering his powers, he was now ready to jump, and he made his big jump across the ocean and found Sita and did a few other things and came back. So now the Vanaras are ready to make their march across the sea on a bridge that's 800 miles long. That's a big bridge. Now, Dvivida is mentioned also after Ramachandra's pastimes and Krishna's pastimes. What does that mean? It means he's one of those living entities that is a Chiranjiva. Chiran means he lives a long time. Chiranjiva. So he lived during Ramachandra's time, and he was still living during Krishna's pastimes. And we hear about his activity in Krishna's pastimes towards the end of Krishna's pastimes, chapter 67 of the 10th canto, where Balaram has it out with Dvivida. And we're going to hear something about all of that. So what's on the screen here is, how is it that Dvivida, he was an exalted associate of Ramachandra. He helped Ramachandra regain Sita. He lived for a long time. And then he fell down and became an enemy of Krishna. How did it happen? How did it happen? And so we're going to go through the explanation of our acharyas, but the root cause was he offended Lakshman. Lakshman is one of the brothers of Ramachandra. Okay, good. 4 brothers. Ram, Lakshman, and the 2 others, Bharata and Shatrughna. So Lakshman went with Ramachandra, and he has a very special personality in the whole of Ramayana. Special personality in many ways. So let's do this. In Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's first expansion is Balaram. And then from Balaram, many other expansions. Because Krishna's all-powerful, he can expand himself. His first expansion is Balaram. And Balaram serves as, there's a nice Sanskrit phrase, Swayam Prakash. It means he reveals Krishna to others. Prakash means to manifest. Swayam Prakash. He manifests Swayam Bhagavan. In other words, he is the original guru, because that's a guru function. The guru function is to reveal or disclose, here's Krishna. The original guru, the Adi Guru, is Balaram. Similarly, in Ramachandra's pastimes, Lakshman is like that. He's the close associate of Ramachandra, and he reveals Ramachandra. He acts like Guru. And just as Ramachandra is to be respected, Lakshman is to be respected. As Krishna is to be respected, representative of Krishna is to be respected. Yes? Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada, yasya prasada nagati gutopi. We're instructed to accept, respect the representative of Krishna. Like, for example, in worldly affairs, when there's a ambassador that goes from one country to another country, the ambassador is given respect like the country, because he's the representative of the country. And the ambassador may be given gifts, but the gifts don't belong to the ambassador, they belong to the country. So it's both ways. Representing, so respect is offered to the representative, and whatever respect is given to the representative goes to the one who is representing. Guru doesn't take anything for himself, it's all for Krishna. And he gives Krishna. So Lakshman is like that. Now the scene here in the painting on the right is when Ramachandra, who's greenish in color in that painting, and standing next to him is Lakshman, and kneeling before them is Hanuman. Hanuman is making an introduction between Ram and Sugriva. And behind Sugriva, there's ministers, such as Minda and Dvivida. So Dvivida made an offense. We'll hear about it as we go further. The offense was he advised the king, Sugriva, the one that you're to give your special attention to is that one, the green one, Ramachandra. Lakshman's not so important. Ramachandra's the one that's important. So it was advice that was bad advice, because the representative of Ramachandra is to be honored as much as Ramachandra. Sridhar Swami, we'll hear this in about half an hour, but he made a commentary on the 10th canto section where the story of Dvivida and Balaram knocking him out is discussed. And Sridhar Swami, some of you know his name, Sridhar Swami is a very, very ancient commentator on the Bhagavatam, and he comments that Dvivida fell and became an enemy became in enmity of Krishna because of an offense he made to Lakshman. This one is pictured here. So the lesson, we'll go through this a few times, but the lesson is don't offend Lakshman. Or don't offend one who's a representative of Ramachandra or Krishna or the personality of Godhead. If you do, there's consequences, and it's a bad program. Don't offend an elevated Vaishnava who's representing Krishna. That's the lesson. And the lesson is being demonstrated in history, the history of Lakshman and Minda. Okay. So here's the lesson in a chart. You're going to see this twice. There's an offense to a Vaishnava. It doesn't have to be Lakshman, just somebody that's a representative of Krishna. And that makes one susceptible to unfavorable association. Now, the world is filled with unfavorable association, but one becomes vulnerable to bad association by an offense to a Vaishnava. And when that unfavorable association has its consequence, and that is anarthas, or unwanted things in the heart that are out of control. And when those unwanted things in the heart are out of control, one can easily make further offense to a Vaishnava and spiral down and down and down and down. And that's what happened to Minda. And the root of it was his offense to Lakshman. So now we're going back. Who is Dvivida? Both of them, Dvivida and his brother Minda, they appeared in this world as sons of the Ashwini Kumaras, but this nice passage, this is from Jiva Goswami's writings. 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan? No. Lord Chaitanya? Yes. Okay. Okay. Huh? Okay, Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya, broadly, Lord Chaitanya appeared to give this, the Hare Krishna mantra. The means in this age of elevation and purification up to the stage of perfection. And there were teachings, but there was also a practice. And the practice was a practice of purification. The purification is the chanting. So he gave these two things. To give one thing, love of God, Krishna Prema. And that's Lord Chaitanya. And he had principal associates. Amongst those principal associates, many, there were 6 very prominent ones. He requested them to go reside in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is where Krishna performed his childhood pastimes. There's 6 of them. They're all from very, 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 very elevated backgrounds. They left it all behind and became mendicants and lived a life of devotion to Krishna and wrote books about devotion to Krishna and about Krishna's pastimes. One of those 6 was like, it is said about Jiva Goswami, there's never been a more scholarly person on planet Earth. He's even amongst scholarly persons. He's especially powerful and gifted and insightful and had full command. He wrote many writings. One of those is mentioned here, called Bhakti Sandarbha. And, this is one section. I'm just reciting from Bhakti Sandarbha. A lot of terminology here. I don't know if it's relevant and meaningful to all. Just try to pick up on the essence of what's the story, and it'll make it easier. For those of you that have been around for a while, here's a nice term. Varana. Varana. You're going to hear this about 6 times. Varana, Sanskrit word. And it means they're covered associates of the Supreme Lord. Varana. You'll see it several times. So these 2, Minda and Dvivida, they're perfected Nitya Siddha personalities residing in Ramachandra's eternal abode, in Ayodhya, in the spiritual world. That's where they eternally are situated. And then there are others, jivas, who are endowed with some of the potency or shakti of Ramachandra's eternal associates, like Minda and Dvivida. So there's Minda and Dvivida in the spiritual world. There's expansions of them, or partial expansions of the potencies of them, invested living entities that may move around here. It happens. Demigods can sometimes expand, and forms of the Lord that are his associates, they can expand, or parts of them can expand to assist the Lord in his pastimes when he appears in this world. So that's what Minda and Dvivida. Just one more time. They're eternal associates in the spiritual world. Partial expansions of them manifest when Ramachandra appeared and assist him in his pastimes with the same name. Although they and Ramachandra are eternally existing in the spiritual world, in the Ayodhya realm of the spiritual world. So in some cases, as in the cases of Dvivida, he became corrupted. Minda became corrupted of the two brothers by his association with Vali, who hated a devotee who happened to be his brother. Vali had like a tiff with his brother, and there was like bad blood between them. They were, he did bad things. Vali did bad things, and Minda became corrupted by Vali's association. And then later, Dvivida became corrupted by the association with Narakasura. All this is in Krishna book. Narakasura is a bad king who kidnapped many princesses, 16,000 princesses, and put them in a prison. Not a nice thing to do. And they prayed to Krishna, please deliver us. And Krishna came and finished Narakasura and then freed them from prison, which was very nice of him. And then they pleaded with Krishna, because we've been away from our parents, our fathers, for some time. No one will marry us. Can you marry us? So Krishna said, okay. So he married them. 16,000. It's in Krishna book. And not only he married them, but he built a palace for each one of them, and he expanded himself into 16,100 Krishnas to be with them. Most people can't do things like that. But he's Krishna, so he can do things like that. He had many queens in Dwarka. So they were princesses that had been kidnapped by Narakasura, and Dvivida, who we're speaking about, we'll hear some more about Narakasura. By the way, some of you know that tomorrow's Diwali, right? One of the events on Diwali was Krishna freed the 16,000 princesses. Yay. On Diwali day. Actually, it happened today, the day before Diwali. And then there was a big festival, including tomorrow. Anyway, Diwali day itself. So Narakasura had become an asura, or a bad person, a demon, and through the association of Narakasura, Dvivida became corrupted. Now, there's lots of bad association in this world, but something that makes you susceptible to bad association is making offense. Say it the other way. Supposing you don't make offense, you can be protected by bhakti from anything. It doesn't mean you become casual, but you can be protected by bhakti. But if you make offense, the protection is taken away. You can become susceptible. That's the lesson. The heading for the first slide, lessons. avoid offenses, especially Lakshmana. Don't mess with Lakshmana. So this is now from Bhakti Sandarbha. This occurs because the Lord's appearance with his devotees is mixed with elements of the material world. Or jivas, that's little souls, that may have some power, but they're also with material bodies, and especially if you make offense, then the protection for you is taken away. Now, if I had, anyway, well, here we are. If I had known you three would be here, I would be speaking on a different topic. So my apologies. But anyway, here we are. Here's another very nice reference. This is Laghu Bhagavatamrita, is a book, going back to the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Lord Chaitanya, and he sent 6 very elevated persons to go to Vrindavan, live as mendicants, immerse themselves in Krishna Bhakti, and write books on Krishna Bhakti. So one of those 6, the leader actually of the 6, was Rupa Goswami. He's a very important personality in our line of spiritual teachings. He's the most elevated spiritual teacher. So one of his books was this one. Laghu Bhagavatamrita, for those of you that may not know what it is, it's a book that's describing avatars. Now, people all over the world, when they visit China, they know what Avatar is. It's a movie. But it's not just a movie. It's a Sanskrit term that means one who descends from the spiritual realm to this realm. That's a category called avatar. And so this book, Laghu Bhagavatamrita, is a description of the avatars. Many, many, many. And the book is about that thick because it has commentary by great acharyas. And so in that book, describing avatars, Krishna is the source, or that, as it says here, Swayam Rupa. Krishna is the source of all the avatars. Because Krishna is the source of all avatars, in this Agama, named Swayambhuva Agama, there's a chapter giving some description of a Gayatri mantra. Gayatri mantra, the 14-syllable mantra. The reason it gives 14 syllables is it's not supposed to repeat it. So if you don't know what it is, that's okay. It's a Gayatri mantra. And in that book, that Agama Swayambhuva Manu, there's a description that these 2 forms of the Lord, Rama and Nrsinga, Rama we were speaking about, Nrsingadev? Same? Lord Nrsingadev? Okay. What to do? You're getting an education. Just leave it at that. So these 2, Rama and Nrsinga, they're very special. They're very special. Amongst the many, many, many avatars, they're very special. This word avarana is also used in relation to these 2. They're very intimate, very close. They're expansions of Krishna, or avatars of Krishna, and they're very close to Krishna, avarana deities in relation to Krishna. Here's another place where this avarana, just looking for where does this avarana term, so we get a context. This term avarana deities is the Lord's surrounding deities. The surrounding deities, another example of that is the Chatur Vyuha, Sankarshan, Pradumna, Aniruddha, Vasudeva. That's the Chatur Vyuha. And they're also called avarana deities of Krishna in the spiritual sky. All of this, what's on the screen here, is just so that you get an idea of who is Minda and Dvivida, because they have a very special place in the spiritual world. And their expansions of them appeared in this material world for Ramachandra's pastimes. However, although their origin is exalted, they became corrupted. They became corrupted by offense. Here's a commentary by another Acharya, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Partial expansions of both Dvivida and Minda participate in Lord Ram's earthly Leela, with the Lord's explicit purpose of teaching us the consequence of offense to a dear devotee of the Lord. So, stepping back, what's our topic? Lessons. What's the lesson? Don't make offense. Don't mess with Lakshmana. Because if you make offense to not just Lakshmana, to a Vaishnava, there's consequences. And the consequences are you become susceptible to contamination. You get a reaction for that offense to a Vaishnava. And then bad association makes you more bad or worse. It spirals. So beware of Vaishnava-aparadha. Specifically, what Vishwanath is saying is, Lord Ramachandra wanted to show us, through the medium of these two, Minda and Dvivida, the consequence of offense. During the battle, so you saw towards the beginning, there was a nice painting of the Vanars crossing the bridge, going to Lanka, and during the battle against Ravana's army, there's many, many, many times Dvivida's name is mentioned. Many times. Ravana and one of his main generals, they tried in battle to kill Dvivida. They couldn't. He's very powerful. However, in Canto 10, Chapter 67, we find, after Ramachandra's pastimes, we'll hear shortly, when Ramachandra left this world, he left some instruction that Hanuman should stay behind. You know that, right? And just sing his glories. But he also instructed three others, Minda and Dvivida, to stay, and Jambavan to stay. As Jambavan stayed, Jambavan was also part of Krishna's pastimes. And Minda and Dvivida were also part of Krishna's pastimes. But one of them, namely Dvivida, became corrupted. The source of that corruption is offense against Lakshman. And after that, he had bad association of Narakasura. And he became corrupted. Bad news. So here's commentary on this story about Dvivida. This is Jiva Goswami, one of the 6 Goswami persons. Very prolific, very learned, very amazing writer. Though Dvivida's associated with Sugriva, that was one of Ramachandra's dearmost friends and associates, the cause of his present foolishness was his friendship with Naraka. As a result, he became extremely evil-minded. He wasn't, but through bad association he became. The cause of this bad association was his pride in his strength, by which he did not respect Lakshmana. Now, going way back when they were first introduced, Dvivida advised Sugriva, don't pay so much attention to Lakshman, pay attention to Ram. Then later, he disrespected Lakshman again. We'll hear. Well, I'll say it, and then we'll see it, hear it again. When Lakshman was pierced in the chest by the Shakti Shela weapon of Indrajit, he's lying on the battlefield with a weapon in his chest. And Dvivida didn't say it, but he was thinking, he's weak. Push over. It was a mental offense. He didn't say bad stuff, but it's an offense. Mental offense can be dangerous too. Beware. He was proud of his strength, and he was belittling Lakshman. Okay, you got a Shakti Shila weapon in your chest, so what? Get up. Be a hero. Then, in the commentary, Minda and Dvivida are two forms worshipped as Avarana deities when worshipping Rama. So they're of the spiritual world originally, and so Jiva Goswami is remarking, they are situated in Vaikuntha. The Minda and Dvivida mentioned in this verse are persons endowed with their Shakti. Clear? I hope. So here's a little context. Here's some more stories. It's story time. There you see Lord Shiva dancing on a mountaintop, Mount Kailash. And there you see his devotee who is playing drums because he has 1,000 arms. He was given this benediction by Lord Shiva because he was really good musician to accompany Lord Shiva's dancing. So here's a description from chapter 62 of Canto 10, where we hear about Banasura. So here we hear about Banasura, the oldest of the 100 sons fathered by the great saint Bali Maharaj, who gave the whole earth in charity to Lord Hari when he appeared as Vamanadev. Banasura, this is the eldest of Bali's sons, born from Bali's semen, became a great devotee of Lord Shiva. And, he as a great devotee of Lord Shiva, Bana was given this benediction that he could have 100 arms, so he could play music while Lord Shiva danced. And chapter 62 is a nice chapter. One of Krishna's grandsons was named Aniruddha. And Aniruddha and Usha got together. Usha was Bana's daughter. It's a long story. Chapter 62. So here's Banasura from chapter 62, and he corrupted Narakasura. We heard his Narakasura's name. The bad association, then Narakasura became corrupted by Banasura, and then Narakasura's association corrupted Dvivida. A rotten apple spoils the barrel. You've heard that one. So who's Narakasura anyway? Interestingly, Narakasura was the son of Mother Earth. Before he didn't start bad, but he became bad by Bana's association. So he's also called Boma. When the Varaha incarnation rescued the earth, then this son was born. This is we find in the Bhagavatam, Canto 3 of chapter 3 of Canto 3. So he, Narakasura, Naraka, or the son of Mother Earth and Lord Vamana, Lord Varaha, excuse me. So he wasn't bad, but he became bad by Banasura's association. Naraka became bad, corrupted through association with Bana. And Prabhupada writes, birth is not always the criterion of goodness unless and until one is trained in the culture of good association, one cannot become good. So Naraka became bad through Banasura's association. And here's Banasura pictured on the right side with his 1,000 arms. And he's doing a big battle with Krishna. Not nice. And there's many other personalities shown in this painting. This group against that group. On the far left, we see Lord Shiva, because he was hit with a yawning weapon, because they didn't want to harm Lord Shiva, so he just was hit with a yawning weapon. And all these other personalities floating around. Bana, so what did Krishna do? Krishna, with his Sudarshan chakra, he chopped off all but 4 of Banasura's 1,000 arms. Lord Shiva then came and pleaded on his behalf, please spare his life. Krishna said, yes. In fact, he'll live a long, long, long life, and he'll be your dear devotee. But his pride was curbed. Same verse. This is chapter 67. Chapter 67 is Krishna's dealing with Dvivida after he had become corrupted. Narakasura is described as the friend of Dvivida, to show that although Dvivida was a minister of the great devotee Sugriva and an associate of Lord Ramachandra, he became corrupted by the bad association of Naraka. And this caused anarthas to arise in him. Anarthas means unwanted things. Reaction to bad association. This bad association was the reaction of offense Dvivida had committed when he disrespected Lakshman due to being proud of his strength. Here's the picture, the painting. Lakshman was hit in the chest with the Shakti Shela weapon of Indrajit, and he's, unconscious. And Dvivida saw that, and he's, poo-pooing him. What kind of hero is this? And the painting, Hanuman is shown because he was requested to get some healing herbs from a mountain some distance away. So he couldn't figure out which were the herbs, so he brought the mountain. While this is going on, Dvivida, in his mind, he became offensive to Lakshman, thinking him weak. Moreover, he was envious. Dvivida desired Ram's favor so ardently that he envied the exceptional affection displayed towards Lakshmana. Dvivida was competing against the Guru, like representative Ram. Problems. And it gets worse. Here's a commentator from the Sri Vaishnava-aparadha, same verse, same section of the Bhagavatam. There's the Sanskrit. One night, while the war with Ravana was going on, Dvivida went inside Lanka and forcibly attacked some Rakshasis, that's ladies, and disrobed them and went so far as to touch their genitals. Knowing this, Ram exiled him from the army. When Dvivida prayed for forgiveness, Lord Rama said that your liberation cannot happen as a devotee. You will have to wait until the next yuga, Dwapara Yuga. And only then you can get liberated, when you're killed by the next incarnation, as Balaram. Interesting, isn't it? Very detailed. Very detailed. So this is Vangshidhar's commentary on the same verse. Look at this. More. While the exact offense against Lakshmana is not mentioned by this Acharya, what is indicated is that his behavior, pride, was unrestrained and overly prideful, due to which he not only broke the sanctity of religious war, but also considered others as weaklings. Welcome, everybody. Let's do a little 30,000 feet overview of what we're doing here. The topic, the theme is lessons from Ramayana. And we're getting a lesson from Ramayana in the form of Dvivida, who we've been hearing he is one of the eternal associates of Ramachandra in the spiritual sky. This is review for you guys so you can remember what's going on. So many names. He is an eternal associate in Vaikuntha, in the spiritual realm, in Ayodhya with Ramachandra, and a partial incarnation or expansion of his Shakti appeared to assist Lord Ramachandra in his pastimes. He and his brother, Minda, was also in the spiritual world, appeared as sons of Ashvini Kumaras, who were royal physicians, demigod physicians. And he, Dvivida, had made a few offenses, more than one. His first offense was he disrespected Lakshman from the time when they were first being introduced to the king Sugriva. The minister of Sugriva is Dvivida, who said, "Don't pay attention to that guy. That's Lakshman. Just Ram, because he's the one." We'll hear some more about what I just said. Because he followed that bad advice, Sugriva also had to suffer by being smashed by Vali. Bad advice. Offend an exalted Vaishnava. Don't do that. Don't do it, or don't advise others to do it. Both. So then later he made other offenses. He was overly proud of his own strength. He was criticizing in his mind. It was a mental offense. But criticizing Lakshman for being weak when he was hit with the Shakti Shela weapon of Indrajit. And Hanuman had to go get some herbs to cure him and all that. You know, he was like, he's a weakling. And he also was so proud of his strength that he violated the laws of the conduct of a Kshatriya. Ram expelled him because of his misconduct. Okay, here's Sridhar Swami. I mentioned his name before. There's a little drawing up in the upper left corner. That's Sridhar Swami. He's the celebrated commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam, long before the Goswamis of Vrindavan started writing their commentaries. Long, long, long ago. So first, he speaks of offense, because this is the lesson. When Sugriva was going to offer his hospitality to Sri Ram and Lakshman, a Vanara by the name Dvivida, one of his ministers, gave wrong advice to Sugriva not to worry about paying any respect or importance to Lakshman, just focus on Ram. Instead of upacharam, or offering respects to Lakshman, he committed apacharam, an offense. Therefore, Dvivida became the friend of hellish planets, meaning he was fit to enter hell to be punished. Bhagavata apacharam, by offending a Vaishnava. And For the same reason, Sugriva, who yielded to Dvivida's wrong advice, got heavily beaten by Bali in the first round of fight. Because he was only concerned about Ram, he did not care about the blessings of Lakshman, Ram's devotee. He had to go through this. When he ran and came back to Ram, then Ram asked Lakshman to garland Sugriva so that Ram can differentiate between Vali and Sugriva. But the truth is, Ram wanted Lakshman to bless Sugriva and for Sugriva to realize his mistake. Clear? Have you ever wondered about that? I have like a zillion times wondered. Because the garland was a garland of just vines. And when two wrestlers are wrestling, the vines are going to get ripped and gone. So what was that all about? It wasn't just about the garland. He had to bow his head to receive the garland from Lakshman. And Lakshman, Lakshman, forgive him for his offense. Okay. And now that offense is cleared. That's Sridhar Swami's commentary. Nice, huh? Second offense. Not offense, a sinful act, which is less serious than offense, is sin. When Dvivida was engaged in the service of Lord Ram in battle with the Ravana's army, during the nighttime, Dvivida surreptitiously left Ram's troop and spent nights, plural, with the women of Lanka, the Rakshasis. Ram came to know of Dvivida's behavior and took him out from the service and sent him away. Then in Dwapara Yuga, only after being killed by Balaram, he attained Swarga. More. Same verse. It's all about Dvivida and, how did he get corrupted? His Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he compares it with the fall of Jai and Vijay. Now, many of you know the fall of Jai and Vijay. Some of you may not. They're gatekeepers of Vaikuntha. They, Jai and Vijay, offended four Brahmanas, four Kumaras, and so they fell. That's the similarity. So there's Nitya Siddhas, in the eternally perfect souls with Lord Ramachandra in the spiritual world. But the expansions of them came into this world, like Jai and Vijay came in this world as demons. Now, here's a little more detail about aparadha. In the illustration in the center of this slide, that's Rupa Goswami. I mentioned the 6 Goswamis. Here we go again. He's one of the 6. He's the foremost of the 6, Rupa Goswami. And one of his books, we spoke about another of his books, Laghu Bhagavatamrita. This is his magnus opus, this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's a detailed description of Bhakti, ocean of Bhakti. So he here now is going to describe offense. 2 types of offense. Offense to the dearest devotee or offense to the Lord himself. Krishna Preshta Aparadha. Krishna Preshta, one who is dear to Krishna. Even bhava is destroyed. So bhava means the stage before prema, or the stage before love of God. And the border line of the topmost stage of bhakti, it can be destroyed by offense to one who is dear to Krishna. Unfortunately, that's what Dvivida did. And he writes, according to the seriousness or grievousness of the offense to such an exalted devotee, the reduction or destruction of bhava is corresponding. Bhava will be destroyed by aparadha to the dearest devotee of Krishna. An example is Dvivida, the monkey, a follower of Ram. By aparadha Lakshman, by aparadha to Lakshman, his bhava disappeared. That's very serious. By medium, like that, the greatest, the most grievous, it's their bhava becomes just a reflection of Bhagavabhas. If it's slight, the bhava changes type. For example, one who is previously situated in Madhurya may descend or be transformed to Dasya. Dasya may become Shanta, etc. So if you don't understand what it says on the screen here, it's okay. It's a detail. Those of you that understand it, it's like, that's interesting. The meaning is beware of offense. Its effects are very serious, even in the highest stages of spiritual evolution. Very serious. So here we saw this one before. Here's the offense to a Vaishnava. It can lead to yielding to unfavorable association that leads to uncontrolled anarthas, that leads to further offense. That's the lesson. So here's a nice painting of a battle where on the one side it's the Rakshasa soldiers of Ravan, and on the right side it's Ram. After Lakshman had killed Indrajit, he was affected by fever because he had killed a Brahmin. That is, Indrajit's grandfather was a Brahmin. So by birth, not by quality, Indrajit had that birth right. Sugriva's minister, Dvivida, wrote a mantra and put it in front of Lakshman. Immediately, his fever was gone. And elated Lakshman granted Dvivida a boon. Listen to this. The monkey said he would like to obtain a death at Lakshman's hand, which was granted. That is, he was killed by Balaram. Now, the source of this is one of the minor Puranas, but it's interesting. Here's a photograph of the river Sarayu, because the pastimes of Ramachandra performed on the banks of this river. In the capital city, which he was he became the king, was in this very same place, along the banks of the river Sarayu. And the way Ramachandra's pastimes ended, he entered into the river Sarayu. But before he entered, he turned to Hanuman and said, you remain behind, along with two others, Minda and Dvivida, as well as Jambavan. So here's the place. We visited this place when we took a yatra to Ayodhya, and there's a nice photograph of the very place where Ramachandra entered the river Sarayu, right here, at this ghat, along the side of the river. And there's a nice photograph of the deities of Ram, Lakshman, and Sita at the very place, it's said, where he entered the river. Now we're going to go back to chapter 67 of Canto 10, where Dvivida has now become a bad guy. He became a bad guy by association with Naraka. You've heard this one 6 times, so now I got it. The bad association with Naraka. Naraka became bad by association with Bana. So here we are, where Dvivida wants to take revenge. Dvivida wants to take revenge because Krishna had just killed Narakasura, his buddy. And after hearing that his buddy, Narakasura, had been killed, he became an enemy of Krishna. And so he's going, this slide says, he went to areas surrounding Dwarka and made a mess of everything. Burning cities, villages, cowherd dwellings, ravaging, smashing, burning. He tore up mountains, devastated as much as he could. There's a province near Dwarka called Anarta. And in Anarta, he was making as much disturbance as he could because that area was devoted to Krishna, very devoted to Krishna. So he wanted to make as much disturbance as he could. On another occasion, this is chapter 67, with his arms very powerful, he flooded the whole area, the whole coastal region, just to disrupt and disturb and cause havoc. Just as a wasp imprisons smaller insects, he arrogantly threw both men and women into caves in a mountain valley and sealed the caves shut with boulders. Not a nice man. According to Vishnu Purana, Dvivida, taking a huge form, looted and destroyed all the crops in the kingdom by going around and smashing them. So it's not only described in the Bhagavatam, it's other places. He was on a warpath. He climbed up a tree branch and revealed his presence by shaking the trees and making the sound ki-kila, kila, kila. So I don't know how to do that, but it's a gorilla sound. Balaram came to know what he was up to. So Balaram hurled a huge rock. And he didn't use, specifically commentary says he didn't use his club because he previously had been a devotee. So he didn't want to club him, but he threw a rock at him. But the ape dodged the rock. They had a big battle. Krishna, Balaram, this nice painting, this and that and the other thing and the other thing. Finally, with his fist, he hit his collarbone. And Dvivida was finished. And end of story for Dvivida. Now, Balaram, during Ram's Leela, was who? Lakshman. And this other Purana, the Upa Purana, said he got this benediction from Lakshman. The next time around, you'll be killed. So this we've seen this same chart before. There's Banasura, who was the eldest son of Bali, and he, by his association, he corrupted Narakasura. Narakasura corrupted Dvivida, and Dvivida became susceptible to being antagonistic to Krishna because his buddy Narakasura was killed by Krishna, because his buddy Narakasura had kidnapped 16,000 princesses and put him in jail, put him in prison. Here's just some added detail. I added this. It's not the essence of lessons from Ramayana, but here's some genealogy. The original firstborn living being was Lord Brahma, and Brahma, directly from his own body, without the assistance of a wife, he had some sons. Marichi, not Maricha, but Marichi was one of those sons. And Kashyapa was a son of Marichi. And Kashyapa married 13 daughters who were daughters of Prajapati Daksha. And then Kashyapa, together with a deity, produced Hiranyakashipu, and Hiranyakashipu and Kayadu had 4 sons. The eldest was Prahlad. This is just gives some chronology. It's not essential at all. I wanted to add it though. Prahlad was born during the 6th Manu. We're in 7th Manu. That's a lot of time in between. Virochana was the son of Prahlad, whose son was Bali. Bali had 100 sons. The eldest was Manu. And in this Manu, that's one after number 6 is number 7, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared as the youngest of all the Adityas named Vamana. His father was Kashyapa and Aditi. Look at the top. There's Kashyapa and Diti, and Kashyapa and Aditi. So there's some blood relation. This is all extra. It's just, I found it interesting, so I included it. 6th Canto Bhagavatam. Prahlad had one son, Virochana, whose wife gave birth to Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj begot 100 sons, and Bana was the eldest of those 100 sons. 8th Canto, Chapter 10. There was this battle between the demons and demigods, and the sun god fought with the 100 sons of Maharaj Bali, headed by Bana. 5th Canto. This is the last slide, by the way. This is detail. It's not the essence of our message this evening. Even now, 5th Canto, Bali Maharaj engages in devotional service by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the planet of Sutala. Back to the 8th Canto, Bali Maharaj is still living in Sutala with vast opulence and will be Indra during the next Manu. Did you know that? Commentary. Some, like Bali, have long life, but do not have good conduct or auspiciousness. Dvivida is one of those. He lived a long time, but he lost his auspiciousness through bad association. Now, Bana, who was like the one that corrupted Narakasura, who corrupted Dvivida, Bana was bad from the get-go. He was the rotten apple that spoiled the barrel. So avoid bad association, but more important, even than avoiding bad association, is avoid making offense. Certainly don't offend Lakshman or Balaram or such exalted personalities, because there's consequences. And so even elevated, super elevated persons can become transformed by that very act of offense. That's the lesson. So let's go back to the very beginning where we were beginning. Oops. Lessons from Ramayana. So as I mentioned to our guests here who are not familiar with Ramayana, it's a history that was compiled by a great personality named Valmiki. Even before Ramachandra's pastimes happened, he wrote about Ramachandra's pastimes, which was pretty cool. He could see past, present, future. He was gifted like that. And it's very wonderful literature. Very, very wonderful literature. It's meant to be sung. Anyway. Within Ramayana, there's histories, and embedded within those histories is lessons of life. With the assistance of commentators and acharyas and elevated souls, we can extract from the stories the essences and the lessons to be learned about life, living in the world, and how to avoid things that are very detrimental and how to do things properly that are very beneficial. So there's this lessons of life picture of Ramayana. There's so many things to say. I'll say one of those so many things. It is said about Ramachandra that amongst the avatars or forms of the Lord that appear in this world, that's the meaning of avatar, forms of the Lord that appear in this world, he has one very special quality, Maryada Purushottama. Maryada Purushottama means he always lives by the codes of conduct for an ideal person. He never deviates from the codes of conduct of an ideal person. So if you want to follow the path of an ideal person, follow the path of Ramachandra. And embedded in Ramayana are lessons and lessons and lessons and lessons of ideal character, ideal conduct, ideal speech, ideal sensitivities to others, and being strong when you need to be strong, and all kinds of ideal character examples, and his principal associates. So one of these lessons is don't make offense. And Dvivida is a lesson imparting person of the consequence. Okay, any little different discussion this evening? Ramayana is not something that we regularly speak about, but there was some request, and so we're speaking about Ramayana. Bhagavad Gita, far more common. Srimad Bhagavatam narrations, far more common. At least within ISKCON, not so common do we hear Ramayana, but nice, very nice. And as we can see, there's some overlap between this and that. Discussion. Yes. Oh, there you are.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So during the class, when you were reciting Srila Jiva Goswami, the term avaranya, I've never heard that before. And when I was looking at the diagram of offenses that basically get fed by bad behavior and bad association, when Srila Jiva Goswami used that term for those associates, the jivas that had the Shakti of Minda and Dvivida, it was stated that because the Lord's pastimes, when he comes to the material world, have material characteristics within them based on those jivas who have that Shakti, and then
not because of the Shakti, in spite of the Shakti, by having a material body, we're in material contact.
Right.
That's the challenge.
That's the challenge, because even though these jivas have the Shakti of these Nitya-siddha jivas, their bodies are still composed of the three modes of material nature, and
that's it. That's it.
So my question was the direct correlation between Minda and Dvivida, and then Jai and Vijay, who were situated in the material sky, who didn't have material bodies. How did they commit offense?
Jai and Vijay?
Yes.
Nice question, first of all. The offense was there were 4 Kumaras. Kumara is a word that means little boy. There were 4 of them, little boys. In fact, they were naked little boys. They were like, perfectly realized, powerful, so they could travel anywhere in the material universe up to the gates of the spiritual world. They had powers, and they had knowledge. So they were like little boys wanting to go inside Vaikuntha. And the two gatekeepers, Jai and Vijay, said, "Sorry, Charlie. No naked children allowed here." He didn't say that, but you have to have qualification to enter the spiritual world. And they were spiritually qualified. And so they said to the two gatekeepers, the offense was they checked them for entering, saying, "You don't have the credential, you don't have the qualification." Said, you don't understand, you have the wrong service. You're supposed to be able to see people that have and don't have. That's why you're here at the gate. And you're offending us? Tell you what, you should leave this place and go to the material world. That's where you belong. It's like, a little feisty. So the specific was, they checked the passage of the four Kumaras from entering the gates of Vaikuntha, saying that they were not qualified when they were qualified. They had no material desire. They had no material attraction. They were pure souls. They couldn't discriminate because they didn't look like it. Or little naked boys. And here's a detail. It's a nice detail. They became even more qualified by standing at the gate of Vaikuntha because there was flowers and incense that were offered to Vishnu within Vaikuntha, and the fragrance of the flowers and incense entered their nostrils, and that spiritualized them completely. They already had no material attraction, now they have spiritual attraction. Mercy. So the offense was, you don't belong here. You have the wrong service. That was it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. It's
How was
amazing.
the ride? I'm curious. How was the ride for you this evening? Was it okay?
Not too bad. I'm out in the hill country, so the roads at night are a little bit more difficult to navigate than they are
Okay.
during the day, but
Okay.
not too bad. I'm only about 30 minutes or so, 40 minutes or so from here, so
Okay.
well worth the drive.
Okay.
Thank you for coming tonight for us
Thank
all.
you for coming too.
Absolutely. So, the first thing that jumped out to me was how a story so old and ancient is never more relevant than today.
Yeah.
And and it's funny how sometimes when I pick up material or blessed to listen to someone like you speak, it feels like it's meant specifically for me.
Oh, good.
Right. And so I guess when we look around today and we see learn the lesson of offense, right? And how this isn't a part of bhakti. My question is not choosing not to take offense also bhakti? So, if somebody offends me, and which is very common in today's world, right? And everybody's taught now to be offended, right? If somebody says something you don't like, be offended by it, right? And so I think it's
Be intolerant.
yeah, be intolerant, right? And so it does, I think, bring a new mode of compassion to our speech and
yes.
learning not to offend again.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also, I guess that my main question and thought in that was, is it bhakti to also not take offense right
Yes.
from the beginning?
Forgive. I mean, that's mode of goodness principle, and it's a transcendental principle. There's difference between mode of goodness forgiveness and transcendental forgiveness. However, sometimes it's beneficial to not be offended, but to help the person speak words of correction, depending upon the person, depending upon the relationship, depending, on other variables. So without taking offense, one may speak strongly.
Understood.
As needed. One may like to say, here's a nice example. There were a group of sages huddled together in a sacred place, wondering, who is the greatest, Brahma, Vishnu, or Shiva? They elected Bhrigu. You're the most elevated. You go check it out, report back to us. Sure, I'll do that. So he went to one, went to the other, went to the third. First it was a mental offense, then became a verbal offense, and then became a corporeal offense. And Brahma and Shiva took offense. Corporeal offense was Vishnu, and he, Bhrigu, kicked Vishnu in the chest. And Vishnu said, oh, my chest is so hard and your foot is so soft. I hope you didn't hurt your foot. And Bhrigu said, okay, that's it. Because not only he didn't take offense, but he was apologetic. You must have hurt your foot. I'm really sorry. So
yeah, it was the perfect answer in while not being offended.
Yeah.
To also make him aware of the offense made.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. You got it. You're a good listener. Now, it's not always that's what's to be done, but that may be what's to be done. It depends. It depends on the relationship. We heard this on the screen, depends on the gravity, the seriousness of, because what you don't want is you may be forgiving, but the Supreme Lord may not be forgiving because you've offended one who's dear to me. So you're in hot water.
Yeah, so the offender isn't removed from the reaction.
Yes.
But the person who chooses not to be offended would be removed from the reaction of it.
It's on one condition, that the person who is offended forgives. That's where this Lakshman gave a garland to Sugriva so that he could be relieved of the reaction of not paying proper respect to Lakshman. There's other examples. This is Puranic stories. I'll tell one more Puranic story, quick. But it's lessons of life embedded within histories. So these are not just Harry Potter stories. It's it's history. Long description, but there was a great yogi named Durvasa Muni, and he went to visit a king who Muni was more exalted than the king, but the king was getting more respect than the Muni because of his exaltedness. So he went to visit the king the day after having fasted for some special occasion. And the king said, oh, fantastic. Can you break the fast first? You're a guest. He said, sure. But I have to take my bath first. So I went to the river and took a long time to meditate on the Supreme Lord, or Supreme Brahman. So the time was passing when the king had to break his fast. So the king consulted the Brahmanas, what should I do? The Brahmanas said, there's a trick. You can break the fast and not break the fast. Take three drops of water in your palm, sip the 3 drops of water, and you're breaking the fast, but not breaking the fast. The trick. So that's what he did. Durvasa Muni came back, being, clairvoyant. You took the fast first. And I curse you. Anger. With a mantra, he took some hair from his head and dashed it to the ground, created a fire demon, pointed the fiery demon, kill him. He took 3 steps of water first. So what happened was, the Lord protected the king by sending his Sudarshan chakra and chopped off the head of the fiery demon. And then when a curse like that doesn't work, it goes back to the person who released the curse. So the Sudarshan Chakra started pursuing Durvasa Muni, who went here and there and there and there, and he went all the way to Vishnu and said, help. He said, I'm at the beck and call of my devotee, Ambarish. You go back to Ambarish. And if he forgives you, everything's good. But I can't do that. He can do that. So he went back. What did Ambarish do? Fantastic. He said, my dear Durvasa Muni, if I have performed any meritorious works in my entire life, I hereby give the benefit, all of it to you. Let it be yours. And may the Sudarshan Chakra desist in, may you be protected. And here's all of my piety transferred to you. It was more than forgiving. But, that's a unique situation. Powerful person is forgiving, more than forgiving. Benedicting. Anything from your friend next to you? Okay. Anybody else in the room here?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Wonderful class, Maharaj. Very context for Naraka Chaturdashi today.
Lots of details. I hope you like details. This one has lots of details.
Yeah, Maharaj, yeah. So I am first time actually I am hearing about Dvivida and Minda. So these two are being actually eternal associate of Lord in the Goloka.
No,
In Ayodhya.
Ayodhya.
Yeah. So they have taken an act in this material world. So how come
Their expansion did, yes.
Yeah, expansions.
Okay.
But I'm trying to understand, is it actually the part of Leela? They behave like
yes,
that?
yes.
Or is it really
It said it. I mean, how can I say yes, except our Acharya said, this was Ramachandra's intention. He wanted to teach.
Okay.
And so he did.
I see. So my second question is then how did he realize, even after appending Lakshmana, then he is asking boon from Lakshmana to killed by himself, killed by Lakshmana. Dvivida in the war, he asked Lakshmana to give boon.
I'm not sure what your question is. Are you asking, after he got the reaction for his offending Lakshman, how did he realize the offense that he had made for having, and the reaction to his offense for having offended Lakshman? He didn't say he realized it.
I know, he
That's not
did
your
not realize it, but how come he asked that boon?
How can what?
He asked a boon from Lakshmana to be killed by Lakshmana.
That's in Upapurana.
Okay.
Upapurana means it has less authority, less weight, but it's just, I included it because it's interesting. And it's right on topic.
Thank you.
Yes, in front of you.
Thanks, Maharaj. Maharaj, in a split-second decision, we make we offend devotees.
Sometimes.
But is the reversal also split-second?
What meaning?
Meaning, I ask for the
Someone
forgiveness.
offends you? Is that what you mean by the reverse?
Yes, yeah.
Is there a consequence to somebody who offends you? Is that what you're asking?
Within my mind, I realize and say, okay, forgive me. Is that okay?
Well, is it okay for you to be forgiving? Is that what you're asking?
For example, I offend somebody
You offend somebody.
mentally. In my mind, I offend somebody. And I decide, it's okay, I think I am wrong. So if I say myself, okay, I am asking forgiveness to him, is it nullified?
It depends on how they respond.
I'm not even asking him because I thought wrong about them in my mind and I'm asking forgiveness in my mind itself.
Okay. That's a tricky question. That's what he's talking about. And then, do I get relieved from my mental offense if I say to myself, gee, I'm sorry? Or say to the person in my mind, I'm really sorry. I mean, My advice would be, you go to that person and say, my dear so-and-so, I've got a wicked mind. You probably know that already. I've got a wicked mind. And in my mind, I thought something bad. No, I didn't say it, but I thought that's something bad. Now I'm telling you, I thought something bad. And I feel badly that I thought that's something bad. So please forgive me. I mean, it's not essential, but that's squeaky clean.
Okay, understood. Okay.
And that will help you the next time there's some, itch, don't scratch it. The tendency to think something that's not nice, the tendency will be checked because you went through that exercise of relieving yourself of potential reaction to a mental offense. The more squeaky clean you get, the less likely you are to go down that offense path in any way, shape, or fashion. Be careful.
Sure. Thanks very much.
Mantra, watch that come away. You just decided eventually if you thought something that was inappropriate about somebody, you caught it in you, did you?
Yeah, yes, that you hit the brake pedal before you go further. Yeah, sure. Then it's in another category. I think that's what you're asking. Yeah.
Maharaj, on the same question, I heard in this Kali Yuga specifically, usually mental offenses are no reactions, whereas when you are offering something to positively, that is giving.
This example I gave of Brigu is exactly, it's greater than a mental offense is a verbal offense. Greater than a verbal offense is a corporeal offense. If that's what you're asking, yes, there is a hierarchy.
Okay. Yeah, we have basically in Kali Yuga, is it still any effect is there?
You want to know if is there a reaction to mental offense?
Yes.
That's what your question is.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it's Kali Yuga and we're in hot water if it is because it's Kali Yuga. You don't get an exemption because it's Kali Yuga. It's just part of the murkiness of Kali Yuga. By the way, Kali Yuga means the age of coral, that particular period of time, age of coral. What's up? You playing tic-tac-toe? Or conducting an orchestra? Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hare Krishna. If I'm new to my practice and I make offenses that I don't know, like when I go to the temple and I don't know what to pray when I bow down, and I don't know many things, or I have a little temple in my house and I offer my food, but I'm sure that I'm making offenses because I don't know. Can those be?
Yeah, that's insignificant. In this case, your mood is everything, and the behavior is insignificant. When you know, then there's more gravity, there's more responsibility. But if your mood is reverential or respectful or etc., then that's fine. That's fine.
Thank you.
And then you can ask, and as you learn. And then it's quite possible, go the other direction. It's quite possible that someone, their heart isn't there, but they're doing a ritual this and a ritual that and a ritual something else. And it's not so meaningful to the person or to the receiver of that ritual. So the essence is that your heart, and stay with your heart, and then when you learn, then you do things with your heart. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You have something. You had something? No? Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, you probably answered this, but I just wanted to clarify again. So if we offend someone, but they forgive us, we don't get the reaction of the
That's
offense?
correct. It's in their hand. The offended, the reaction is in their hand. And they can say, no problem. Now, here's something. Madhurya Kandambini, you've heard that book? Supposing you offend a Vaishnava, and the Vaishnava is very forgiving, but Nama Prabhu might not be so forgiving. Right? You familiar with that teaching? And therefore, it's not just a mechanical, they nod their head and say, no problem. I mean, that if that's the case, it's then the devotee becomes like a doormat. And I got muddy feet, to just wipe my feet, my muddy feet on the Vaishnavas. And because they're Vaishnavas, they say, no problem, no problem. But it's not how a Vaishnava should be dealt with. That's a risk. The tendency repeating itself is the risk. So again, back to her question, I don't know what all the rules are or what all the procedures that I, should be observing. So that's the attitude that should be behind the requesting of offense, forgiveness of an offense. Just don't do it again. That what I just said is what was said by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Jagai Madhai. Whatever offense you've done, don't do it again. And they didn't do it again. The Jagai Madhai became exalted souls. They not only were forgiven, but they wanted to amend for their offense by building Jagai Ghat and Madhai Ghat, and stood with folded palms at the top of their ghat, saying, please forgive us for all our unlimited numbers of offenses. So their hearts became clean by service to the Vaishnavas, as opposed to potentially being, again, the same thing. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Maharaj, one quick follow-up
Okay.
on it. What if we don't even know that we have
Speak
offended?
slowly. What's what?
What if we don't even know that we have offended?
That's a common question. Here's Prabhupada's answer. Therefore, every day we recite this prayer. Vanjakalpatarubhyasya kripasindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. Now you can do that mechanically, and that doesn't have the same effect, but it's a prayer where those who are the Vaishnavas, I'm far less than perfect. I may very well have made some offense. Please forgive my unknowing offense. I mean, it's not exactly the translation of that verse, but that's the import.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Up front.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for that wonderful class. In one of the slide, Maharaj, you mentioned like Dvivida got envious because Rama.
Speak into the microphone.
Yeah. In one of the slide, means you mentioned like Dvivida, he got envious because Rama was showing love towards Lakshmana.
Yeah.
So we were actually studying about envious and jealous. Is there a difference? Because we
Difference
mentioned
between what and what?
envy and jealous.
They're brother and sister. There probably is some refined distinction, but they're often used interchangeably. And I don't know language, if it really matters too much. Pretty close.
Because it say like among devotees we can be like envious to get more services. Okay, they are doing more services. Is that a mode of goodness, or envy is a bad word anyway?
That's bad.
Okay. means heard in one of the lecture, like Gopikas were like envy towards Radharani, but it's not the like jealous kind of thing. They also wanted to become, do more services. That's why I got that question.
When you're on the level of the gopis, you don't have to worry.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much for a very nice class. Maharaj, when we see generally the character exhibited by Lord Rama and Lakshmana throughout the Ramayana, we see that Lord Rama is very calm, like dealing with situations, etc. Contrast to that, Lakshmana,
Gets hot sometimes.
yes, I mean, he does show like a temper. So the question is, if we, I mean, with that nature seen, how do we understand him as a guru? Because, I mean, we see that like, you should be free of anger.
Well, he's a Kshatriya. And when people offend Ram, he doesn't take it lightly. It's not about him, it's about Ram.
Mhm.
And he's a Kshatriya. And he doesn't take it lightly. But, it's not self-interest, it's Ram interest. From the vantage point, not of a Brahmana, but the vantage point of a Kshatriya. He gives Ram and he protects Ram. That's his relationship. That's his function. So it's okay. No, it doesn't, indiscriminately, wantonly, and frivolously, and that's not Lakshman. But appropriately, circumstantially, he can be very strong. Someone else. You have something. Good. Good.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You said just a few minutes ago, you said when you're on the level of the gopis, you don't have to worry about offense.
No, you don't have to worry about the jealousy, because their jealousy is a transcendental, not the worldly kind.
Right. Okay. So my question was, when I was looking at the augmentation of Bhav after committing an offense,
Yeah.
the gopis are far beyond Bhav,
Oh, yes.
but Bhav is also far beyond Anartha Nivritti.
Yes, it is.
So in that diagram of bad association creates inflammation of the anarthas, which means more offenses. So if you're at the stage of Bhav and you have done the work of Anartha Nivritti and you've gone past Ruchi and Ashakti,
Yes.
then you shouldn't be culpable to still committing offenses.
Well, that's your idea. But you're not
Yeah.
Rupa Goswami.
I'm not.
And he's not like, he's not a judge. He's just describing, spiritual science. And in the spiritual science of bhakti is even at such a high place. You don't have, it's not that you now have a license. I'm in a high place and I can do what I like without any consideration. No, unintentional is different than intentional or knowingly. Like, back to her question about going to the temple and not being, I may be doing things that are not okay.
It's far beyond my audience.
Yeah, it's knowingly and unknowingly, intentionally and unintentionally. It's quite okay. If let's say, when Srila Prabhupada came to America and he was mixing with, LSD counterculture youth. interesting audience. And they were doing things that, a refined person would have nothing to do with. But they would do those things, and he made no comment at all. He just, didn't look the other way. He just water off a duck's back. It didn't affect him at all. However, as they became trained, then he would put on a little weight and, to get them to sit straight instead of. Have you heard the recording of Srila Prabhupada's chanting japa? You've heard that? There's, at some point, he stops and says, sit properly. So I know the devotee, at least the devotee told me, I was the one who was slumped over like a sack of potatoes, and Prabhupada stopped and said, sit properly. Now, right in the middle, because of his relationship with Nayana Baram, he was able to do that right in the middle of a recording. And that's okay. That's okay. Because of that relationship. But before that, just water off a duck's back. Because it's part of training. Helping a person, get purified more quickly than otherwise. Because of that relationship. And he was happy to tell me. And I didn't ask him, and after that time, did you always sit properly? Because that's the benefit that comes from getting some strong instruction. Okay, I think we should end. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai.
Maharaj ki jai. Thank you, Maharaj, for the wonderful class. Devotees, tomorrow we have a Srimad Bhagavatam class at Pankaj Prabhu at Shika Mataji's house. The address has been sent in our WhatsApp